terms of dating and coming up to marriage,
Yeah.
what do you think are some things? Actually, before we say it, I was going to say, what do you think are some things we should look for, like guys should look for in someone to marry? But I think before that, we should look at ourselves
For sure.
and say,
Yeah.
okay, what type of man should we be before we're ready, if you can be ready, to get married?
Yeah, I definitely think you can be more ready. What should a man... Well, one is vision.
Big.
Yeah. I would say I'm still figuring out what that is. I think there's a lot of different parts to vision. You know, I wanted kids and also, raise kids the way of the Lord. Again, it comes back to Danelle being on the same page. So those vision links to the person that you get with, that you date or marry. So that's the thing in itself. We talk about integrity. You know, what do you mean by integrity? Is such a loose term, but it's integrity in everything.
Yeah.
You know, that goes back to transparency. I'm looking at a list that you've got of core values in your own house here. But, even looking at that, honesty, respect, I feel like are the two that link with integrity. But transparency there as well. You know, what are the areas you struggle with? You know, what baggage have you brought? What baggage do you need to deal with before you even bring another person into that?
Yeah.
For example, if you struggled with sexual relations, you've just grown up with that, you haven't really been told it's wrong, or you haven't had the right guidance there. It's not about condemnation, it's about recognizing, no, I've been sleeping with people, I've had that experience, so when I date, that is part of my sort of hardwiring now. That's what you're looking for. You need to be honest about that.
Yeah.
Because then you can put the right boundaries in. And I think that's also comes back to, can you put boundaries on yourself and almost fight your flesh? You know, you had your phrase you used earlier, not in the podcast, but abstinence. And we said it was, I looked up the definition, but it was basically, it's restraining from indulging.
Right.
So linking to alcohol and sex specifically, that's what that definition is. But it's in everything. Go back to boys versus men. Boys are immature. We just do what we want. I eat when I want. I'll eat at 9 p.m.
Yeah.
No, you need to have dinner ready at the right time. You know, it's not just about, I go to the gym, X, Y, Z. It's about having discipline, we spoke about. You can't lead without discipline.
I think it was a good point you just made about essentially being able to rule over yourself, being able to lead yourself, having your flesh in subjection first before getting into something with someone else. Yeah. It's like, if I can't rule myself, how am I going to rule the household? Yeah. And rule, I mean, lead in a godly way. Yeah. So I think that's really important. And the big area is, of course, sexual sin and those type of things, which is where often we hear abstinence. Yes. Abstaining from that before marriage.
We also need to recognize that it's a partnership. We're the head of the home, but a lot of men are dumb. Talking from experience. Yeah. If I was by myself, I would be lost severely. I might think I know what I'm doing. I'd probably be in Bali or Thailand, living life, traveling. But I wouldn't be doing God's work. You partner with the right, we talk about God's yoke, his burden is light, or is it? No, that's not right.
His yoke is easy and his burden
thank you.
is light.
I think that's getting muddled up there. And it is that if you're able to partner with God, Jesus, have that relationship. I think that's key. First of all, obviously we know that we're talking about, on a Christian podcast, but also you have to remember that you're also picking up the yoke of your wife and walking alongside that. If you've got a girl or a woman, you talk about the Proverbs 31 woman is looks are fleeting. So we're going to lead into what do you look for in a woman, but if they're pulling you one way and you haven't got a backbone, and you're not being led, you also haven't got the discipline to be led in the right way, and acknowledging I need to be led in the right way, and acknowledging when you're not being led in the right way, you're going to go the wrong way. Yeah. You're going to let the woman lead you. You're together. The yoke is you've got two harnesses on one another linked to the same, I don't know, the pole or whatever.
Yeah.
We talk about the head of the home, and then people say, oh, well, I'm not letting anyone be in charge of me.
A leader also knows when to submit.
Yeah.
If you think about a company, right? So my company, the director in, let's say the CEO, whatever, at certain points, he will submit to the expertise of a particular specialist in the company to say,
yes,
oh, what's best to do there?
Yeah.
Because he knows he has the expert knowledge in that field, even though the CEO is the head of the whole company.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of the direction and the leadership, he's the one setting the direction and the pace and everything.
Yeah.
But in certain areas, he will submit to the knowledge of someone else.
Yeah.
That's wisdom. In a marriage, there's times that will apply as well.
Absolutely.
So you being the head of the house doesn't mean you always know what's best in every situation.
No. Very rarely, actually, in my situation.
But wisdom is when you can recognize the situations that she knows better than you.
No, absolutely. I've got a few examples of where that's good.
We've jumped to marriage, but we can go with it.
Yeah, we'll go back. We'll go back. But just on that, in terms of going back to discipline then and having a backbone, I recognised that Danelle was better with finances than myself because at the early dating period, she was working and had a clear budget. And I thought, I'm not. And I actually thought, I don't have to worry about this now because I'm marrying someone who's got full control.
Right.
But I cannot be the head of the home if I am not in control or involved in all aspects of the marriage. You use the director as an example. He went to the person with the expertise, but he was involved in direction, making the decision, and equipping and using the person with the expertise. You can't pray over the right things if you're not involved.
Right.
So she said when we first got together, she actually wrote me a card when I left because we did a long distance for a bit. If I remember it, but basically it was, I will follow you wherever you go. She submitted to be led, but she also knew which way she should be. She'd know, yes, this is the right way, or no, that's the wrong way, Josh, So we would have a conversation of where to go, So I'm leading, but it's almost, she's saying, I think we should go this way. And then I go, no, or I pray over it and I say, yeah, I've got peace about that. That's the right way to go. Or I say, no, thank you. Appreciate that input. I think we should go this way. What do you think? I don't just then say, no, I'm not listening to you. Let's go this way. Because there could be multiple options always.
Yeah, of course.
So, so that's, you've got to be involved.
Yeah. No doubt. So going back to what type of men we should be before we get married.
Yes. Sorry.
So we've had, kind of talked about decisive. Talked about integrity.
Yeah.
We need to be men of integrity. Men with vision.
Yeah.
So we need to be able to, in order to lead, you have to have a vision on where you're leading them to.
Absolutely.
So we've got that. Key one you mentioned is having that relationship with God.
Yeah.
We need to be spiritually mature, let's say, and strong we need to be seeking God.
Yes.
And to know God. Again, it comes back to where are you leading them?
Yeah.
If you don't even know God, are you leading them to a life serving God, to a life into God's purpose or not? You can only know that if you know God yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's a key. Do you think, this comes back to what we've slightly discussed already about like paying for the first date.
Yeah.
Do you think, should a man be financially kind of stable before getting married? Because I've heard mixed stories on this. Like I've heard some people say, maybe a bit like yourself, where it wasn't like that initially, but you got married and it worked out. God brought you through.
Yeah.
But I've also heard, as the provider, you want to kind of have something to provide initially.
Yeah. something to give. Something to give.
But what's your thoughts on that?
It's tough. If you ask my dad straight away, I was raised to not be a freeloader, to have money, to provide. That was all what it was. Like, for example, my dad paid off all my mum's debt before they got together. To talk about investment, or I don't think it was a little bit either. I think it was quite a lot. So yeah, I think we should be. It goes back to, where does God want you? And we talk about you shouldn't do everything in your own strength. And again, it's purpose. Not everyone's going to be getting married young. And I don't know if someone said, would you recommend getting married young, or would you recommend not getting married young? It differs, because it goes back to that verse. I don't know where it is, but it's, better to get married than to burn, basically.
Oh, yeah.
That idea. So if you're with someone and you sort of know that you're supposed to be with them, but you keep saying, well, I'm not financially stable yet, or I haven't quite figured out all this baggage yet, and you keep just pushing this person off, but you very confident. It's not just a case of, I think I should be with them. You might say wrong time, wrong place, go separate ways for a few years or whatever, but I don't actually think that's the right thing to do, in my opinion. So I would say commit to the Lord. If you're both on the same page, you can trust that. You're not saying, oh yeah, I'm going to provide for you. You're just saying, I'm coming here with empty pockets, and saying, God's going to provide for us.
Yeah. Ultimately,
the other person is probably going to have to be on the same page
100%
on that as well.
Yeah, of course. Ultimately, I think it does come down to, what's God leading you to do?
Yes.
I would say, as a general rule,
yes,
I think men should aim to be financially stable.
I would agree.
Before getting married.
It just feels wrong to say that when I didn't do that. But I would agree.
Yeah, but
I would agree.
It's like, as a principle, can you provide for yourself before you provide for someone else?
Yes.
And I'm not saying all the burden of it has to be on you, but if we're leading the way, that should be included.
Yeah.
So, as a general rule, I would say that, but God could lead you to get married to someone when that's not necessarily the case.
Yes, exactly. It's circumstantial, but exactly, as a general rule of thumb, I would agree. I think men, talk about model men, Christian men, we should be in a position to do that. And I think that's the way God would want it to be as well. I don't think it's a case of you have to have £1 million in the bank or be like rich to buy the bags.
No.
It is just about, I can offer X to care for you. You're not going to commit to me and be worse off than where you are now.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think
as a bare minimum, you should be setting your hand to something. Like,
yes.
Okay, maybe I know some people get married in university, you're studying. Okay. But what are you doing to progress yourself to the point where you could provide?
Yes.
At some point. A man who is just sitting at home playing video games.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Like, yeah, I'm waiting for my wife. It's like,
no, you need to get up and work.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think that will be the difference. I think I don't know if women listen to your podcast, but any women looking at men, they might not have a lot of money, or if you're in my position, they might be at uni, but like you say, what's their character?
Yeah.
Are they doing the work of the Lord? For example, they might not be getting paid anything, but God's providing for them. You can supernaturally, you can see that if I commit to Him, I'm going to be taken care of. Even though He's not showing me evidence, I can see evidence in His life.
Yeah.
And I think Danelle saw that as well. Go back to me not having a job. The whole way through, I still tithed. I had a Saturday job. I still tithed, and they talk about people, you're struggling to tithe. I was giving little money of what I had, but I was always covered. And my dad came through, if he ever listens to this, like, he was one who sort of helped me out most times. Rightly so, by the way. No, I'm just, but all these I was always provided for, and even the miracles of buying the engagement ring, just £600 extra of cash sitting in the bank account. I was like, oh, well, where did that come from? Wow. But it was there. So I trusted it. I spent it quicker than so it didn't get taken out. The bank emailed me. That was an error.
You need to pay back.
Yeah. Well, I didn't receive that. But it was so I think Danelle could see that. I also think her parents could see that. Like, I don't think they were looking at me at uni and being like, Danelle, this guy's like got nothing to give. Yeah. They could see I was a hard worker. I had multiple jobs as well.
Yeah, so you could see you were doing things. You were working hard to progress, even though the finances weren't exactly flourishing yet. But
the character was there to work hard. Yeah, and I think
that's what you need.
Yeah. And I think you'll recognise that in yourself as a man.
For sure.
It's not hard. You're either lazy. You can pretend that you're not, but you'll know that you are. And it's not about people who just chill on a Friday night and stuff. Yeah. Like, what are you doing every day?
What about this, though? So I read something recently online where a wife, I believe, had an issue because they weren't financially provided for in the house. Bills were due, things were not getting paid. Yeah. The husband was pursuing a dream. Yeah. And refused to get a job. Like, whether it's like a music career or something. He was like, no, I'm grinding to reach this dream. I'm working hard, but the money's not coming in yet. And he was like, I'm not going to get a job.
Was he good though?
What would you like? What's your thoughts on that?
Was it a God dream? That's the first question I'd ask. Because take Noah's ark.
I don't know
what I mean. Noah, he was told build.
Okay, yeah.
For any family member to get behind that in the, we don't have rain, go get a real job. Why are you building this? So I agree. You have to be on the same page. If they're married.
Yeah.
So if she's saying bills are due, they're also not Christian, by the way. If they're not Christian, then they're stuffed.
Okay, if we make it Christian, what if the guy is pursuing ministry, but right now he's not getting any income from that, but he believes God has called him to ministry? So, he's working, maybe he's gone to Bible college, whatever. He's trying to get into ministry full time, doesn't have another job, money's not coming in.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
It's always dependent on faith, isn't it? Faith changes depending on each person. So it depends how great their faith is, whether they know God's going to provide the bills. So that's one answer. That's not always ideal, because you also don't want to get to the end of the month and you've been doubting and you're not 100% convinced God's good, and then they're in debt. That's not a good position to be. I'll tell them to go get a job.
I agree.
Because I think it's another sacrifice that needs to be made by the family, both the woman and the man. She's already got the sacrifice of, well, he's not working, there's no money. And she's probably accepted that for a little bit. Saying, right, no, you need to get a job. I will sacrifice you not being here in the evenings for, as long as he makes time. Because again, as men, we're not just called to be a man of our dream, the dream of our own stuff. We're called to be, the model man as a husband, protector, if he's got kids, a father. Again, you've got to make time for your wife, you've got to make time for your kids, and you've got to make time for your God's calling.
Yeah.
God doesn't say, he does say pick up your cross and give all your life to him, but that doesn't also mean disregard,
of course,
the people he's entrusted in you.
I would even say family should come over ministry. Like, family should come over what you see as your God dream. Because
No,
God's will, first and foremost, is for you to provide for your family.
Yes.
There's a verse that says, whoever does not provide for his family is worse than an unbeliever. So that should be a priority.
Yeah.
Like, my number one concern is my wife or children or both taken care of?
Yeah.
If they're not, yes, I have God's calling here, but Lord, I need to focus on provision. I need the provision now. Show me how to do that.
Yeah.
generally, God's way of providing that is through you getting a job.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to work.
Yeah, and we should all work and be willing to work.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't see any reason why someone can't work maybe a job that's not where you're going to be long term. Work on your ministry.
It doesn't have to be a career.
Yeah. I mean, this podcast, I'm not doing this full time.
No.
I've got a job.
But you're doing it.
Yeah. So
you make time for it. You know, you've got the people you ask are making time for it also.
Yeah.
Because, well, I don't know if you've noticed, but you should see that as what the value they see in you. And God's calling on your life.
I mean, yeah.
And I think that guy you spoke about who's doing his music career, people will support that.
Yeah.
If he got a job and was like, I can't care of my kid on Saturday, I've got a gig or whatever they do. You know, I've got to go to studio, whatever he says.
Yeah.
Can you look at my kid? They'd say, yeah, because I see the calling on your life. If people didn't see that, I think they'd say, you might want to stop that. And he should have to, it's not doubt and unbelief talk. I'm talking about people advising you and saying, I don't think this is going to work out.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you've got to weigh that up, but you could be so misconstrued on, no, God's called me to do that, but he hasn't. Do you know what I mean? So there's that's an issue in itself, but I think people will support you when they know that. And again, we spoke about it before, David. It might have even been our friend Ruben that mentioned it, that he was called to be king and he already knew that. Yet he still served his father in the field, and then he served the king he was supposed to be taken from as his like armor bearer. And he did that at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Do you know how like hard that would have been?
Yeah.
Because I just used to read David like, David's so easy for David. I don't think so. He been called to be king. If someone said, Josh, you're going to be king of England, I'd be, Charles, get out of here. I'd be like, you think I'm sitting around? And then my dad said, I need you to come mow the grass for me. I'd be like,
King of England?
Yeah, king of me? Jeez. Exactly. You know,
that's a really good point. Yeah. So he knows he's called to be king, yet he still works, you know, his father's takes care of the sheep, works for Saul.
Yeah.
He's holding, you know, being his arm. So yeah, that's powerful.